Hi, fourth grade. Today is Module 6, Lesson 3 for Eureka Math. Okay, we're going to get started with the application problem, which is on page 15. Please turn in your blue Learn books to page 15. Ed bought 4 pieces of salmon, right? Salmon's a type of fish. 4 pieces of salmon weighing a total of 2 kilograms. One piece weighed 4/10 of a kilogram, and 2 of the pieces weighed 5/10 of a kilogram each. What was the weight of the 4th piece of salmon? So this problem gives us a known total, right? We know that the total weight is 2 kilograms. We're going to use cubes right now to pull all of the important information out of this problem. Circle the important numbers, right? So where do we start? We have 4 pieces, right? 4 parts. You should be following along with me on page 15. They weigh a total of 2 kilograms. Remember that we box important math words that give us clues about what we're going to be doing, how we're going to be solving. Okay, total tells us that this information, this 2 kilograms, is going to be the answer that we come up with, the sum of this addition problem. Okay, then we have information about how much 3 different pieces of salmon weigh, right? One piece weighed 4/10 of a kilogram. 2 of the pieces weighed 5/10 of a kilogram each. Okay, so they gave us information about 3 pieces of salmon. One that weighs 4/10 of a kilogram, and 2 pieces that each weigh the same, 5/10 of a kilogram. So we've circled, right? We're going to underline the question. What are we being asked to solve? What was the weight of the 4th piece of salmon? So we have a missing piece of salmon, a piece where the weight is unknown. If you remember, and I'm sure you do, we can draw a tape diagram to solve this problem. You should be writing just like me. No one can draw straight lines as well as Mr. Hansen, but you can try. We have 4 pieces of salmon, so we need to separate our tape diagram into 4 parts, which means you'll draw 3 lines, right? You can split it in half and in half again. We need to label our tape diagram with the information that we know. We know that our total weight is 2 kilograms. So we can draw a bracket at the top and label our total 2 kg, 2 kilograms, our total weight of fish, total weight of salmon. We know what 3 of the pieces weigh. We have pieces that weigh 4/10, 5/10, and 5/10. We can label them now. 4/10, 5/10, don't forget to write kilograms, and 5/10. Our last box is the last piece of salmon, the 4th piece of salmon that we're trying to find the weight. So we're going to mark that with a variable, with a letter, until we find out what the value is exactly. Let's use the letter W for weight. There are a few steps we need to complete to solve this problem. We need to find the difference between our total weight, 2 kilograms, and the combined weight of the 3 pieces we already have. And that will tell us what's left over, the weight of our 4th piece of salmon, W. So let's start by adding together 4/10 plus 5/10 plus 5/10. Let's write that addition sentence now. Your paper should look just like mine. Four-tenths plus 5/10 plus 5/10 equals 14 tenths, which can be rewritten as 1 and 4/10, right? Because 5/10 and 5/10 can combine to make 10/10, which is equivalent to 1. So what we're really adding is 4/10 plus 1 whole, which gives us 1 and 4/10. 1 and 4/10 of a kilogram is the value of the 3 pieces of salmon. Now that we have the combined value of the 3 pieces of salmon, we can subtract that amount from the total weight, right? So we're going to have a subtraction sentence that looks like this. Our total amount, 2 kilograms, minus 1 and 4/10 of a kilogram equals what? What is left over? We can use a number bond strategy to separate 2 into 1 whole and 10/10, which is equal to 1 whole. If we separate 2 into 1 whole and 10/10, and we're subtracting 1 whole and 4/10, we'll subtract 1 whole completely, and from 10/10 we can subtract 4/10. 10 minus 4 is 6. We're left with 6/10 of a kilogram. And that weight is our value for W. The unknown piece of salmon weighs 6/10 of a kilogram. Okay, so don't forget we're using the RDW strategy. Read, draw, write. We read, we drew. We've already started writing in number form, and we need to write our final answer in a word sentence, right? So 6/10 of a kilogram is the weight of the 4th piece of salmon. So in a complete sentence at the bottom, we can write the 4th piece of salmon weighed 6/10 of a kilogram. The 4th piece of salmon weighed 6/10 of a kilogram. Okay, let's take a look at the problem set on page 17 in your Blue Learn books. Everybody take a second and turn to page 17, the lesson 3 problem set in your Blue Learn books. Each of these discs represents 1/10. That decimal value, 0.1, equals 1/10. How many tenths in all? All we're doing now is counting how many tenths discs are shown here in this picture. But to make it easy, they're grouped for us into groups of 10. 10/10, as we already know, is equivalent to or equal to 1 whole. 10/10 equals 1 whole. So a group of 10 1/10 discs is equal to 1 whole. We have 2 groups of 10 discs here. That's 2 wholes. Our whole number is 2. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tenths here. So there are 10, 20, plus 8, there are 28 tenths. Make sure that you're following along and your paper looks like mine. Page 17. There are 28 tenths. How can we write 28 tenths in decimal form? Remember that each group of 10 tenths equals one whole. How many groups of 10 are in 28? That's right. There's two groups of 10 in 28, right? So there are two wholes represented by 28 tenths. The decimal form is 2 and 8 tenths. How much more is needed to get to 3? 2.8, 2 and 8 tenths. Remember, there are 10 tenths in a whole, so 8 tenths is 2 tenths away from 10 tenths and from our next whole, which would be 3. So how much more is needed to get to 3? 2 tenths. Lastly, we can show our value as a fraction, same value as the decimal, 2 and 8 tenths. Make sure you're paying attention and following along, because this work is very similar, in fact, exactly the same as the work we're doing on our exit ticket. So make sure you're following along carefully. Let's look at number 2. I want you to try to do part B here by yourself, and you'll see it again on the exit ticket. Number 2, we are drawing discs to represent these values that are written in word form using tens, ones, and tenths. And we're going to show expanded form of the number and decimal form of the number. Fraction expanded form and decimal expanded form. All right, this first one is completely done for us. So we can use part A to help us complete part B. Start with the tens. Here, they show 4 tens. We only have to show one here. So that's one circle with a 10 in it. You should be writing just like me. In part A, they have 2 ones. In part B, we have 7 ones. Draw 7 ones. And lastly, we have 5 tenths. Draw 5 tenths. One 10, 7 ones, and 5 tenths. To write it in expanded form is simply to use multiplication instead of a picture to explain how many of each value we have. So in fraction expanded form, we're going to write 1 times 10 because we have 1 10 plus 7 times 1 because we have 7 ones. Lastly, we can add 5 times 1 tenth because we have 5 1/10ths. 5 tenths. Our total value is found by adding these 3 values together. 1 times 10 is 10. 1 times 7 is 7. 5 times 1/10 is 5 tenths. Adding these 3 values together, we get 17 and 5 tenths. to show it in expanded form is the same for the whole numbers until you get to tenths. And then if you're showing the tenths as a decimal, it looks a little bit different. So for decimal expanded form, we have 1 times 10 plus 7 times 1 plus 5 times 1/10 equals 17 and 5/10. Remember, the values are the same. This is 2 different ways of showing the same value. Okay, before we do the problem set, turn to page 21 in your Learn books. Okay, there's a template in there called the tenths on a number line template. We're going to work on that template for a few minutes so that you can recognize exactly what to do in the problem set. We're representing the same value several different ways. Let's start at part A right here on the number line, and in decimal form, fraction form, and expanded form, we're going to show 4 and 1/10. Fill in your paper so that it looks just like mine. We're going to show this value in 3 other different ways. In decimal form, 4 and 1/10 is said the same way. It's written as 4.1, 4 and 1/10. On a number line, we know that 4 and 1/10 falls in between 4 and 5. So on our number line, we're going to mark 4 and 5 at our ends, and we're going to use 9 lines to separate this number line into tenths. Four and 1/10 will be 1 notch or 1/10 away from 4. Mark it with a big circle on your number line so you can see the point where 4 and 1/10 falls. In expanded form, we're separating our whole number. 4 is in the ones place, right? We have 4 ones. So that's represented as 4 times 1. And then we add that to our tenth value. We have 1/10. That's shown as 1 times 1/10. And if you add these two values together, 4 times 1 is 4. 1 times 1/10 is 1/10. Together they make 4 and 1/10. How much more is needed to get to the next one? 4 is a whole number. We're at 4 and 1/10. The next one, the next whole number is 5. How far away is 4 and 1/10 from 5? That's right. It's 9/10 away. If you count on your number line, you will count 9/10 to get from 4 and 1/10 to 5. So 9/10 is the distance needed to get to the next one. That can also be written as a decimal, 9/10. Lastly, we can show this value, 4 and 1/10, on our number line up top. Label the number line at your whole numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Again, our number line is divided into tenths in between our whole numbers. So 4 and 1/10 is marked 1 line past the whole number 4. And we need to label that point as point A. Our next value for part B is 32 and 5/10. As a decimal, that looks like 32.5. As a mixed number, we have our whole 32 and our fraction 5/10. On a number line, it's going to fall in between 32 and 33. Separate your number line again as neatly as you can with 9 lines. (32 and 5/10). Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mark its point with a big circle. Expanded form, we have 32 times 1 plus 5 times 1/10 gives us 32 and 5/10. And on the number line, or by counting or adding, you can see that 32 and 5/10 is 5/10 away from our next one, our next whole number. Okay, fourth grade, let's turn to page 18 of your Learn books. I'm looking at problem number 3. I want you to try to do C and D from problem number 2 by yourselves, okay? They're the same as A and B that we just did down here. Draw the discs, write it in expanded form as a fraction and a decimal. Number 3, we need to complete the chart. We're sort of just filling in the missing pieces of the puzzle. They give us a value, 3 and 9/10. We need to fill in where it's missing, okay? And we need to fill in the missing information. 3 and 9/10 as a fraction is done for us in part A. In decimal form, we know that that's written as 3 and 9/10. In expanded form, which is what we just did for number 2, that's written as 3 times 1, because we have 3 ones. 3 times 1 in parentheses plus 9 times 1/10. When we add that together, 3 times 1 is 3. 9 times 1/10 is 9/10. We get 3 and 9/10. Last, we need to show it on a number line. This number line is divided into tenths. So at each endpoint, we're going to have a whole number. 3 and 9/10 is between 3 and 4, right? It's more than 3 and less than 4. So we're going to label our points 3 and 4 on our number line. We know that 9/10 is just 1/10 away from 4. So we know that 3 and 9/10 is going to fall right there on our number line. Make sure you mark it carefully. Okay, and the far right column says how much to get to the next one. Well, 3 and 9/10 is only 1/10 away from the next one, which is 4, right? 3 and 9/10 plus 1/10 will give us 4. Part B, the only piece of information they give you is the point on the number line. So we need to be very careful in reading our number line. 17 and 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10. 17 and 5/10. Fill in the value in these 3 different ways that we're showing the same value. Uh, 17 ones and 5 1/10. When you add them together, will give us 17 and 5/10. How far away are we from the next whole number? 17 and 5/10 is you can see it on the number line, 5/10 away from 18. So we are 5/10. I'm writing it as a fraction. You could write it as a decimal away from 18. C, D, and E, I want you to try to complete by yourself. I'm going to give you a hint for part C, okay? Because it's a little tricky. We have 7 tens, 4 ones, and 7 tenths. That value is 74 and 7 tenths. So on your number line, you're going to mark 74 at the low end and 75 at the high end. Try to complete the rest of this information for me now by yourselves. Okay, 202, that's it for today. I want you to try to do the rest of the problems in the problem set and then complete the exit ticket and submit it to me, okay? You can take a picture and text it to me. You can take a picture and text it to Ms. Shaw or send it to her on Class Dojo. Actually, Ms. Shaw's class, I think you're filling out the document, right? She gave you a document to fill out on the classroom, okay? And 202, do it in your book and send me a picture, okay? See you tomorrow.